Hi and welcome to George on Cars. Today I've got an amazing video. I'm going to be reviewing this 2020 Kia Sportage. But before I do, let me tell you a little bit about this month's charity of the month. And by the way, if there's any car related content that you want to see on the channel, send me an email at georgeoncars@gmail.com. Now this month's charity of the month is the Ronald McDonald House. Across Canada, there's 16 Ronald McDonald houses and 17 Ronald McDonald family rooms that provide families with a place to stay together while their child is being treated at a nearby hospital. They're a great organization, so check out their website, which has some amazing information, and you can even make a small donation there if you like. I'm also going to link to some other great children's charities if you'd rather donate to one of those instead. So thanks a lot for supporting these great charities, and I hope you enjoy the video. The Kia Sportage is a 5-door, 5-passenger, 2-row compact SUV that comes in front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive configurations, and Kia has built this vehicle since 1993. The base price for a 2020 Sportage is just under $27,000 Canadian, but it can go to over $40,000 Canadian for a well-equipped, loaded SX model. Now, production of the Sportage started in 1993 in a joint effort with Mazda, and it was produced in limited numbers at first, but now Kia sells around 90,000 of these per year. The Sportage sits in between the Seltos and the Sorento in the Kia lineup, and in 2020 it came in 9 trim levels. Yes, 9 trim levels. So you're probably wondering what those 9 trim levels are. Well, they're LX front-wheel drive, LX, LXS, EX, EXS, EX Premium, EX Premium S, EX Tech, and SX, which is the top trim level. So Kia has something for everybody with all those trim levels. This particular vehicle here is a 2020 Sportage. It's the EX trim level with a 2.4 liter GDI or gasoline direct injected naturally aspirated motor, and it came with all-wheel drive. Now this vehicle is pretty well equipped. It has a panoramic sunroof, push button start, keyless entry, a wireless charging pad, heated seats and steering wheel, and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And it also comes equipped with lane keep assist, which is a nice feature. This vehicle here, stickers for just under $35,000, which is a really good value. Now under the hood of the 2020 Sportage, you have 2 engine choices, which are all mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission. There's a 2.4 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that makes 181 horsepower and 175 pound-feet of torque. Or you can get a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, which makes 237 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. Now the latter engine is only offered in the range-topping SX model. This car has the 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine, and 0 to 60 times for this vehicle would be just under 9 seconds. The 2-liter turbo, that's going to hit 60 in just around 8 seconds. Fuel economy on this vehicle is 23 city, 30 highway for a front-wheel drive 2.4 liter model, and 20 city, 28 highway for the 2-liter turbocharged motor. Both models tow around 2,000 pounds. Overall, I think Kia did a great job with the styling of this vehicle. I think it's bold and aggressive looking without looking polarizing or offensive. I particularly like the front end of the car. I think the grille is unique looking, and I like these cool round fog lights. I also like the way the headlights point in towards the center of the vehicle, and as usual, they've got a lot of really cool details in them, which I find kind of neat. I also like these nice contour lines on the hood, which add to the vehicle's bold and aggressive look. Moving around to the side of the Sportage, I find the profile on this vehicle is very sharp. There's a nice looking contour line that runs from the front of the vehicle to the back, and there's also a sloping roof line, which makes the SUV look a little more sporty. There's also some nice black cladding at the bottom of the doors, which give the car some extra dimension. The wheels here are 18-inch rims, and they're wrapped in Michelin tires. Now you can upgrade to 19-inch rims, but you have to order the SX model to do that. The brakes on this vehicle, they're 4-wheel discs with 12-inch rotors up front and 11.9-inch rotors in the back. Now there's nothing wild and exotic about the back end of this car, but I think Kia's done a nice job making the rear end of this vehicle look clean and fresh. I like the way the spoiler adds a sporty touch to the back end of the car, and I like the way the taillights are neatly integrated in the rear end. The one thing that you're going to find a little bit odd on this vehicle is the turn signals and the backup lights are located very low in the car, which isn't something that you see very often these days. Once open, you're going to find the lift-over height for the trunk is relatively low, and it's easy to load large items. The trunk is very roomy and spacious, and there's 30.7 cubic feet of space behind the rear seats. There's also a hidden storage area under the cargo floor that houses a cool tire repair kit, since you don't get a spare in this trim level. Now, you can't drop the seats from the back end of this vehicle, which is unusual, but when you do drop the seats, you're going to get 60.1 cubic feet of cargo space, which is very competitive in this segment.
Working our way around to the interior, you'll find getting in and out of the Sportage is easy. The step-in height is good, and the doors open nice and wide. The overall interior is also very nice. There's a lot of soft touch surfaces on the dash, armrests, and door panels, and the interior materials and fit and finish are surprisingly good for a vehicle at this price point. The front seats in this particular model are cloth and are comfortable and supportive, and the material feels nice to the touch and quite durable. They're also heated and power adjustable. The steering wheel on this car is really impressive. It has a very supple and soft leather on the rim, and it's heated. It also has all the functions you'd expect in a steering wheel, like infotainment controls and cruise control. And this vehicle actually has lane keep assist, and I was very impressed with how well it worked. The instrument cluster on this car is analog, simple, and easy to read. On the left side, there's a tachometer and a temperature gauge, and on the right side, you have your speedometer with a fuel gauge. In between the two, there's a small LCD screen that you can program using the controls in the steering wheel. The center screen allows you to program various user settings like display settings and convenience features. The infotainment system in the Sportage is an 8-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Overall, it works well, and the screen reacts quickly to touch commands, and the resolution is pretty good. I also like that there are hard buttons just under the display screen if you'd rather use those instead. The radio in the Sportage works fine and is easy to use with ample presets, and the sound quality is decent. It has all the usual functions you'd expect in an entry-level audio system. The backup camera on the Sportage is nice and large, and it has the backup lines which make parking and backing up easier, but the resolution was quite a bit worse than I was expecting. The ventilation controls are a nice simple combination of hard buttons and dials, and they're easy to use. There's a dial to control the fan settings and temperature controls, and buttons to direct the airflow into the cabin. The center console has a nice storage bin with one USB charging port and two 12-volt outlets. There's also a wireless charging pad, which is a nice feature on an entry trim level vehicle. Working our way down a little further, you have two large cup holders and a nice shift lever. Also on the console is the electric parking brake, hill descent control, all-wheel drive lock, drive mode selector, and an auto hold function, which, when pressed, allows you to take your foot off the brake at long stop lights. The armrest is covered in soft leather and is very comfortable, and when you open it, you'll notice it's quite large and deep. On the passenger side of the vehicle, there's not a whole lot going on here. You have a large non-locking glove box and some storage bins inside the door panel. Moving into the rear seat area, getting in and out of the Sportage is easy. The step-in height is reasonable, and just like the front doors, the back doors open nice and wide. Once inside, there's plenty of leg and headroom even for 3 people, and the seat comfort is quite good. There's also plenty of storage room in the back seats, in the door pockets, and some storage on the back of the front seats. The back seats are nice and wide and recline, and come with heated bottoms on the upper trim levels. When you're not using the middle seat, there's a nice fold-down armrest with 2 cup holders. There's also 2 vents in the center console that send air to the back seats. They're not controllable from the rear, but they keep the back seats comfortable. And just under the 2 air vents, there's a single 12-volt outlet.
Okay, so here we are driving the 2020 Kia Sportage or Sportage, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with the interior of this car. I've got, in the back of my mind, I keep thinking of the old Kia when they first came to North America. And to be quite honest, they weren't the greatest cars back then, but man, Kia has really upped their game, and this is a pretty pleasant interior for this category of car. Just steering wheel, for example, I mean, the quality of the material on the steering wheel, the leather is very soft, it's very supple. It's a thick steering wheel, it's got a good feel to it, it's got all the functions on it. It looks really upper crust. I've actually driven a lot of cars that are quite a bit more money than this, and they don't have steering wheels near as nice as this. Steering wheel is also heated, which is kind of a nice touch, especially in this segment at this price point. Now, overall comfort in the Sportage is actually pretty good. I find there's not a lot of interior noise. You don't get a lot of wind noise, road noise, etc. You do get a little bit of engine noise on the interior of the car when you're accelerating quickly, but for the most part, it's not too bad. It's not obtrusive. The one thing that did surprise me was I found the suspension on this car a little bit harsher than what I thought it should be for more of a touring SUV. This isn't a sporty SUV It's not like a Macan or anything like that. So I was kind of surprised that the ride was a little bit harsher than what I thought it should be. It's not punishing or brutal by any means, but considering this is really more of a touring SUV, I was expecting it to be a little bit suppler. I also like the gauges on this car. They're very clear, easy to read. On the left side, you're going to have your tachometer. On the right side, you're going to have a speedometer. And the center pod is adjustable with some controls on the steering wheel, which is nice. And there's also these modes you can play with here on the car. There's different drive modes. There's an eco, there's a sport, there's a normal. I've pressed them a little bit, to be quite honest. I noticed the transmission shifts a little bit differently in them, but for the most part, I don't think you're going to see a ton of difference in those. And I don't think a lot of drivers who are buying this category of car, this type of SUV, are really looking for a sport mode or an eco mode. I think they just want a normal driving car. Exterior visibility in the Sportage is actually pretty good too. You know, looking out the side, the front, there's really no issues. Visibility is quite good, especially being an SUV. You're sitting up a little bit higher, which is always a nice feature. I find the A-pillars here aren't overly thick and don't obstruct your view. And the mirrors give you a decent view out both sides, and you don't really have a big blind spot. Looking out the rear view mirror, I wouldn't mind a little better visibility out of the rear view mirror, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Now the steering in this car, it's what you would expect in this category of SUV. It's not overly sporty, it's not overly assisted, but it's actually quite nice. It is a little bit on the heavier side, which I like. I've driven this car on the highway. It doesn't require a lot of adjustments and bringing the car back to center. And because the car is all-wheel drive, there's no torque steer at all, which is really nice. All right, so now it's time to send it. Ooh, actually not too bad off the line. This isn't too bad for the base car. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. It gets us up to about 55 miles an hour. And engine, I found probably not as smooth as some of the other vehicles I've driven. It's a little bit on the rougher side. But the 6-speed transmission, it actually shifts well. I really didn't have any concerns about the way the transmission shifted. Though being a 6-speed, it's a little bit out of date. A lot of the competitors are up to 8 and 9-speed transmissions, but the tranny did shift well. So what are my overall impressions of the 2020 Kia Sportage? Well, I think this is a nice 2-row, 5-passenger SUV with one of the best warranties in the car business. It offers a decent ride with a lot of storage room for road trips. Also, the acceleration and the handling are pretty good for this segment of vehicle. That, and there's a lot of safety equipment like stability control, traction control, hill descent, and lane keep assist, and this vehicle also has a 5-star safety rating. Now, if you're looking for a car in this type of segment, you'll also want to check out the Toyota RAV4, the Honda CR-V, the Mazda CX-5, the Ford Escape, and the Chevy Equinox. And if you want to see some other YouTube reviews on the 2020 Kia Sportage, check out Redline Reviews, Car Wow, and Raytees Rides. Well, that's it. That's my review of the 2020 Kia Sportage EX. Thanks a lot for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you hit like and subscribe. And more importantly, support the charity of the month if you can. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next video.